Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Nokia. We've already talked about Naked in my previous videos, and now we're talking about Nokia. Nokia actually has a lot of hype behind it. We're seeing these $10 and $15 callouts, and we're saying it's a short squeeze, it's this and it's that. But I don't think it's an actual short squeeze. There's real promise behind what they're doing and how large the company is growing. We're gonna get right into that here in a second. But before we do that, I need you to do one thing and one thing only. Hit that sub button down below, leave a thumbs up, and make sure you have the notifications turned on. I'm posting videos every single day about the stocks that I am trading and the long-term gems, as well as going over stocks that my viewers are suggesting to me. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it. Okay, so as we talk about Nokia, there's so much hype behind them. Everyone's saying that it's a short squeeze. We're talking about all these penny and cheap stocks going on right now. But Nokia, in my opinion, is not a short squeeze. The short interest, yes, is a little bit high, but I don't think the stock is something like GameStop or these other brands that we're seeing, such as AMC. Nokia really has tech behind it. And I want to look at a few articles to see how the big players are also looking at them. We actually have an article from Bloomberg kind of freaking out because Reddit users have actually noticed that Nokia is a legitimate play. All right, guys, so we're going to look at this article first. I'll have the link posted down below so you can do your own due diligence and get your own opinion for yourself. But this is the paragraph we're going to read from. While shares of GameStop and AMC have surged as bands of Redditors have piled in, Nokia stock is the biggest gainer in Europe this week for the same reason. At one stage yesterday, shares in the Finnish company that are listed in the US jumped 63% before falling again. That's a far more worrisome phenomenon. So actually, they're attacking some very big points here because Nokia isn't built for this short sell. They're actually a promising company with tech, and they need their stock valuation to kind of stay safe. So then he comes down and attacks a key point we need to look at. The global telecoms equipment market is dominated by three players: Nokia, Sweden's Ericsson, and then China's Huawei. There's actually a current war going on with China's company in America, and they're kind of being delisted nationwide. Between them, they build the most critical network infrastructure that underpins not just your broadband and cell phone connections, but the networks for factories, hospitals, law enforcement, and anyone else who will communicate. And because security concerns about China and cutting Huawei out of the markets like the US, UK, and France, those countries are increasingly dependent on just Nokia and Ericsson. Nokia is doing something that the other companies are not. They're making that next step past 5G as well. And if you actually want to look at some of Nokia's contracts, you can actually come over here. We're going to bounce around just for a second. You can see their global contracts on their actual website, their 5G contracts, their partners, their use cases, so much behind them, and they're no longer just your flip phone, typical phone Nokia. You know, the indestructible phone of the 2000s where you could throw it at the wall and nothing would happen, all reliable. So basically what they're saying, this is the fear. Major sell-off could damage a firm like Nokia's access to capital. It may also be particularly fragile since it's in the middle of restructuring program and to right some of its missteps it's made in the recent years. So Nokia took a long time to restructure its business. Nokia didn't make that step it needed to as quickly as possible, really focusing on the 5G and the actual behind the scenes stuff of these networks, which it's doing very, very good at. But we need to actually know it took them a while to get here, so they're actually a few steps behind, especially with capital. So they actually are a fragile company and they can't afford to have their price going up and down and fluctuating on their actual evaluation. This is kind of going to hurt them if it does. So if you're buying Nokia, this is a longer term play in my opinion. As I'm playing this, I'm buying it on the longer term scale of things as a 5G company. You know, we're seeing that there's three top competitors, and one of those competitors is being taken out of the UK and the US. Probably more nations to come. So that's something to take into account. Nokia just isn't a pump and dump play in my opinion. Yes, it's very cheap. We're going to get into the charts here in a second. But looking at it, if you're buying, this is actually one of those long-term baggers. And this is what I was talking about with their new tech coming out. We're just going to look at this just for a second. So it's that 1T development. It's the step after 5G, that future tech. Now, one thing to note is that Nokia is so trusted and actually building such a name for itself, it actually has a contract with NASA. Go look it up for yourself, do your own due diligence. Like I said, they're not the Nokia that we think of 5 years ago. So Nokia and Elisa pushed networks boundaries with the first 1T development. So they are the world's first to come to this tech and to be working and developing a product here. Elisa is their Finnish company that they work directly with. They're doing very good and they have a very good promising relationship in the build up. I don't want to focus too much on this tech. You can read the article down below if you want some more information on this. This isn't going to affect it in the short term at all because what we're looking at right now is the short term. Okay, so if you watched my last video on Naked, I'm feeling very confident on that company. You can go watch it. It's the latest video I just released behind this one, and it's looking pretty promising on this like short squeeze side of things. Also, I think there's a lot of technicals behind the company on fundamentals as well that look very, very promising, not just the short squeeze aspect. Looking at Nokia though, it's being viewed as a short squeeze. That's one thing we have to take into account. That's how it's being viewed as a company. But is it a short squeeze? I don't think it is. looking here as well, we've already had a full retracement from this level of like this $4.50 that we pushed all the way up to 9. We've literally seen a retracement in a matter of 3 days, a complete retracement back to $4.55 range, which is pretty important to take note of. Do I think there's upside from here? One thing we should take into account, the original price before this movement was about $4.20. So it's looking like there's very low risk if you're buying into this stock. So as we buy into the stock, you know, the downside potential is maybe $4.20 all the way down to $4 flat, that monthly dollar range, which is something I'd be eyeballing as well. So the risk is already there. We're already saying the maximum risk right now potentially is about 10%, right? So we could probably drop 10% if we came down. Could we drop below that? Yes. Is their company structured, like I mentioned, in a long-term view of things to do very, very well? I believe it is. I believe that long-term scale things, that they're a very good company. And if you get stuck with this company over the next month, I think you'll probably be able to make your money back. So as I'm buying into this, I feel if I get stuck with this company, I'll make my money back here in the next month or so. But what's the upside looking at this? I did make some comments on my live stream that I wasn't too bullish on them, but now that I'm sitting back and taking more of a look at them, we need to look at some key points. I think there is a lot of room to actually start shaping up and going back up. What we want to see is this range right here, this purple lines. As you see, this zone, we were just sitting in it. This whole zone, we were sitting right there. It's about $5, $5.10. If we can break above that range, I think there's a lot of room for us to start going back up. Now, we don't want to, if you're a long-term investor, you don't want to see a massive move up. You don't want to see the $10 to $15 in 3 days again. Now, if that does happen, I would consider for myself personally getting out of my positions and taking profits. I do think this company has a lot of room to run. I think they have high growth potential. The contracts and the relationships they're building are stacking up for the good side of things. So I think there's massive room to run up. If you start seeing some really quick run up again, it's like with GameStop, AMC. Someone's going to step in and you're going to start losing money and it's going to start going back down eventually. These massive runs up, the parabolic runs only last so long. This isn't Tesla. We need to know that. So on the short term, could we go to 10? Could we go to $15? It is 110% possible because not only do they have good news, a lot of these Reddit traders and the retail investors are looking at this as a short squeeze. It is not a short squeeze in my opinion. I think there's tons of room for us to go up as a company, but if you're buying on the long-term side of things like I am, I feel very good and confident over the next few months as well. I could easily see a $7 to $6 run up here in the works. We could start seeing a slow trend up. I want to start seeing this resistance and the support to be made right here. I do not want to see us breaking below that $5.55. If we do, I'll be targeting a buy down here at that $4, $4.10 range as well. Those are going to be two really nice buy zones to be looking at. That's what I'll be targeting. On the short-term side of things, if we start to see volume kicking in, there's a high possibility Nokia makes that $10 run. But if that happens, I'm taking profits pretty quick. Now, if we start seeing slow, gradual growth, I'm still targeting that $7 to $8. And I'll be taking profits there somewhat, but not completely. I think it has a lot of room to run. I think Nokia is very promising as a company. And the more we research it and the more you find out what they're doing, they're making huge steps in the right direction, especially with China's company getting delisted and being so frowned upon right now. So consensus, I think Nokia on the long term is a beautiful stock to be looking at. I love what they're doing. Long-term growth is setting up very, very strong. The relationships, the partnerships that they're building, phenomenal. This is what you want to see in a company. It's already proving the growth that it has. It's just showing that right now it is a fragile company. So if it starts to dump, things could get very ugly on the financial side of things for Nokia, just because they took so long and delayed this overall rebranding of a company. Short term, if you're looking at the short term side of things, if we start seeing an immediate pump up to $10, $11, I wouldn't hold past that range. I'm personally not going to. Long-term perspective, if we start seeing slow gradual growth, I'm going to be taking some profits at the $7 to $8 range. And then from there, we could potentially start seeing price discovery for some new highs locally, which would push me towards that $15 to $16 range. But that could overall take months. You need to be prepared for that. So if you're a long-term investor, that's what I'm looking at. Short-term, you want to see some pretty quick movement. If we don't see some pretty quick movement, you can kind of get stuck in your option plays. So that's something to be looking at. That's going to wrap up this video, guys. If you got anything out of it, make sure you hit the sub button down below, leave a thumbs up, and have the notifications turned on. I'm posting videos every single day about the stocks that I'm trading, typically 2 times a day. Have a good one, guys. Namaste.